Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things that you love with those you love to do them with. Please smash the like button for me if you enjoy these little daily updates. I'm going to be trying to break these things down and doing them more kind of as they come through rather than just saving them all up for one big show because I want to keep you guessing a little bit, I guess, on the content. Please smash the subscribe if you haven't already. We are not far away from 34K. Any help is most greatly appreciated. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell even, and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this one. We got an exclusive broke as I was on the stream there with Sava a minute ago from TBR, from Graham Bailey and the Tottenham correspondent Jamie Brown that says that Son Heung Min has held talks, is holding talks with a club from abroad. Key move made to sign him from Tottenham. As you may have been able to see from the thumbnail on the title, Son in the USA, I was Son in the USA. Anyway, enough of me. Let's get into the story. TBR Football understands that LAFC have held talks with Tottenham Hotspur captain Son Heung Min about a move to the United States. The MLS club are now working on a sensational deal to bring the legendary Spurs captain to the BMO Stadium this summer. Thomas Frank is open to selling Son, as TBR Football revealed back in June, although the final decision over his future is set to be made by the player himself. The winger now has a big chance to leave Tottenham Hotspur this summer with interest from MLS and the Saudi Pro League. LAFC have freed up a designated player spot, which would allow room for Sonny to join them this summer. Sources have told Graham Bailey, chief correspondent at TBR Football. Oliver Giroud's departure from MLS club means that they now have a free spot to sign the South Korean international. MLS clubs are designated 3 DP spots, which allows them to sign players whose wages would exceed the league's salary cap. The 32-year-old currently earns around 190 grand per week in pounds and will require a transfer fee. Therefore, LAFC would need to add him to one of those DP spots. They have 2 spots, 3 after Giroud left to join League One club Lille last month. It's interesting that Oliver Giroud's going back into France, obviously going back home, I guess. I'm not sure if Oliver Giroud has played for Lille before. Should look that up, really. But with everyone else looking to vacate the French league, financial issues over there with the TV media rights deal, problems galore. We know Lyon got relegated, although they are expected to be actually given the reprieve from that deal now. The latest I've heard from and read from regards their relegation for financial issues. PSG came in and paid off the remainder of a transfer money, a debt that was owed to Lyon for Bradley Barcola. In so doing, that money plus the money that John Textor has put into that club since his sale of his shares, his 42% stake in Crystal Palace. Let's carry on with the story. Son, who Ange Postecoglou called outstanding, will be allowed to decide his own future this summer, and it remains to be seen whether a move to the States would appeal to him. There is also interest from Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, the prospect of remaining in North London, and playing Champions League football one last time could be quite attractive. TBR Football understands that Son is open to working with Frank, but the pair are due to meet to discuss his future once he returns to Hotspur Way for pre-season. Son really should consider leaving the North London North London club and ending on the ultimate high of lifting the Europa League trophy. He became the first Spurs captain since Ledley King to lift a trophy for the North London club, cementing his status as a legend. The story sort of carried on, but listen, let's get back into where we're at here, guys. And in reality, we've been talking about this quite a lot. So Tottenham Hotspur, they've obviously made their decision to go after Mohamed Kudus. That one is still up in the air. Tottenham have had 2 bids rejected, 50 million plus 5 and 55 million plus 5. Apparently, it's still a fair distance away from Kudus's, well, first of all, his asking price, which is 85 million, but all of the 6 clubs that are sniffing around Mohamed Kudus are hoping to get him for less than that price. If we're already at 60 million quid in total, 25 million quid, I would imagine he's going to go for 70 million quid. If Tottenham do get that job done, I think he's a really, really great fit to add versatility. He can come in. I think we've seen before from looking at the stats that he's sort of like the inverse of Brennan Johnson in terms of all of the things that Brennan Johnson was very good at last season, Kudus wasn't so good at, and vice versa. But if you go back a little bit and you kind of take last season in context, let's not base our entire opinion on the player on recency bias, because you can get caught out by short-term thinking. for me, Kudus solves a massive issue in our club. I think he basically immediately comes in and becomes our best player, certainly in the offensive line. If you can keep him happy, keep him motivated, keep him aggressive, and get the version of him that was emerging and exploding when he was back at Ajax and in his first season at West Ham, I think you've got an absolute baller. And given the kind of pedigree of where the market is right now, Pedro, £60 million, I think it is, that Chelsea have ended up paying for him. I think that 65, 70 is about right for a player of Kudus' age, his IQ in footballing terms, his ability to devastate, to take players on. I think he absolutely smashes it. However, I don't really see him as a left winger. Now, we brought in Matisse Tell for 30 million quid plus the 10 million loan fee. I think it's 40, 45, whatever it is. I don't really see Matisse Tell as being able to handle all of the minutes on the left wing if Sonny does depart. If Sonny does depart and goes to Saudi or to Turkey or to USA, then I think that should free up some wiggle room. It should free up some movement in the squad, the non-homegrown. It should free up some cash, and it should obviously free up some wage space. Not that we have any problems there anyway, to be able to go again. If you accompany a Sonny sale and a Romero sale, then with those two, plus hopefully in an ideal world, a Richalison sale, a Bissouma sale, and a Solomon sale, alongside the kind of spray and plays like the Valizes that may go out, and maybe one or two of the younger players from the youth team that haven't really kicked on enough, like potentially an Ashley Phillips, potentially a Dane Scarlett, where you're going to pick up a few million here, a few million there. You add that to the money we've already got from Pierre Mahoybier, and of course, that's about 20 million euros, about 17 million pound. Plus, if you can get some money, the 10 million, I think it is, or 11 million euros that was supposed to be agreed for Brian Hill, then you're starting to put together a decent packet alongside the Champions League money, alongside all of the other things that we've got going on, and you'd hope that Tottenham can go again. And if you do sell Sonny, this particular story is specifically about that kind of frontline effort. Then if you can sell Sonny and Solomon and maybe a Richarlison, then I really think that Tottenham can go again. I think that Tottenham could find a way, as I said in the last video, to go and get an Eberechi Eze. I don't think Eze necessarily fits our need as much as everyone does, but he's a wonderful player and he absolutely elevates us. If you could get Kudus and Eze, and even if Eze does go to Arsenal, even if they fail in their attempt to get their number one choice in Rodrigo, I'm not thinking that Tottenham can go and get a Rodrigo. I'd love to see it, but I just don't think it's possible. But in a dream world, whatever. But in reality, unlikely, knowing where we are in the pecking order. If you could go and get a Xavi Simons, then I think Tottenham have a hell of a lot of options. But for me, Sonny is a direct take, or he used to be a direct take on guy that would cut in when necessary, but can also take players on galore. I don't think Kudus is going to be used as a left winger to do that. I think on the right he could. It begs the question, though, where do you then find space for an Odegaard and a Johnson? So if you're going to keep the same energy around thinking that maybe there's a horses for courses thing here where you buy a left winger like an Eze that everyone wants, but ultimately his best position is a 10 where you already have two players that are not going to leave this summer, but that will be unhappy if they're not getting the minutes when everyone's fully fit. You know, it's unlikely that everyone's going to be fully fit anyway, but in a world where you work to normal sort of ratios of likelihood and probability curves, in a world where all three of them are fully fit, how are you going to keep them all happy? If Eze's not really the sort of direct left winger, but he's more of a 10 that drifts left, or a 10 that starts left and drifts in, then I think you have to keep that same energy for Kudus and the fact that he's going to be up with Brennan Johnson and Wilson Odegaard. But what's the solution there? There's no noise that Odegaard is going to be leaving. There's no noise that Brennan Johnson's going to be leaving. Now, remember, we're not going to be playing traditional sort of touchline hugging wingers that much this year. Inside forwards is more of the guys. So it kind of leaves you in the same sort of predicament of going, well, Mohamed Kudus can play everywhere, but maybe one of the reasons why he was unhappy at West Ham was the fact that under two managers in one season, when everything was going wrong, he was asked to be played in like 7 different positions. And so, again, one of the reasons why his stats don't look sensational is that they're being compared to people that have been asked to play in the same position all the year. And so you can outperform on some and underperform on others, but in so doing, you end up with a bunch of like orange bars rather than any particular greens overall. It's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem, and it's not necessarily the solution to which is not necessarily clear to me. But in a world where Sonny was to leave and go to LA, then I think that does offer more space in the squad, and I think that you can then make the assumption, if there's truth to this, that Tottenham are looking for a second left winger, and whether Mohamed Kudus is that guy or Tottenham are going to go again, I'd love to see it. It especially makes sense now that you're hearing about Richarlison maybe going over to Turkey. Now, why I'm happy about, when I say happy, I'm not happy that Sonny's leaving. I just think it's the right time. As that story suggested, it's one of those things where it's the sort of the juice in the squeeze of going again in a new project when he's 32 years old. Is it not better for him to kind of let his last kick of the ball in a Tottenham shirt in a competitive game being in the one where he lifted the trophy? It's a perfect way to sunset the story. But where I've had issues until now is I don't necessarily think he would want to go to Turkey, because there's a lot of things going on in Turkey, a lot of ambition, a lot of ammunition, but there's a lot of other things that are bubbling under the surface that I haven't fully investigated yet, but I'm convinced that there is something happening there with regards to Saudi. If the only options available to Sonny that result in Tottenham being able to get a decent fee for the guy that can help us, then if it's Saudi or Turkey, he might not want to go to Saudi. A lot of players haven't wanted to go to Saudi this summer. Maybe that's because of the World War III thing, although that looked like that's calmed down a little bit in the last week, but who knows? That's a powder keg that can kick off at any time. Maybe the heat, maybe the draw, maybe the fact that other players have gone there and then left. Maybe he's not into that. I don't think money drives him, so it won't necessarily be about that. But the draw of LA, the draw of America is a different one. It's not one that's massively been bought up by Premier League players in relative to Saudi in the recent years, but there's a lot of money out there as well, a lot of ambition, and I think that LA would be a cool place to see for a lot of players to think they would want to go and experience. So the fact that LA apparently have come to the party here, I think it accelerates and expedites the potential outcome that I think most of us would probably be okay with, which is losing the legend that is Sonny, but getting some money back, letting him go off and create some future memories, some awesome memories for him. Say, from someone that had the opportunity to go and move to America and tick that lifelong dream of being able to work out there and live there, not as a tourist, but as a resident. I wouldn't change it for the world. I think a lot of people would like that experience in life, and I think that he might that might be the one that gets his juices going more so than Turkey or Saudi. That's my thought process, if it's true. It also, of course, is going to be dependent, and it will absolutely be something that will happen after the preseason tour. As long as he doesn't get injured in that particular thing or in pre-season, then that will be something that we'll see be created and be sorted out at the tail end of the window, which is absolutely fine. But if Tottenham know that's something that can happen, and Tottenham can go about getting their business done. Now, does that mean Tottenham move back to Eze? Does it mean you go for a Xavi Simons that presents the same sort of predicament of a 10 that looks to go left or left that comes in? Or do we go and get someone else in the left wing spot? Still want to know your thoughts, though, on how do you squeeze all these players in? You've still got Odegaard and Johnson. Do you guys think that both of those players are going to be here? Odegaard was being experimented in as a 10 last season during that injury crisis. I'm just saying that despite my optimism around some of these stories that are starting to kick in now that July's getting into full swing, I still think that we have a lot of players that are in the same sort of position, and the absence of stories about moving too many of them on. Losing Sonny is one thing, losing Solomon's another, losing Richarlison, but there's still a lot of wingers at this club that are going to need their futures to be reassured for themselves, and Tottenham fans need to know exactly what we look like. Lots of things to discuss, guys, but as I say, I don't think Sonny would necessarily want to go to Turkey. I'm not sure he would want to go to Saudi. A lot of players haven't, but America, I think, is an appetizing and enticing prospect, and it makes quite a lot of sense to me. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that. If we can sell him, Richarlison to Turkey, would he want to go there in a World Cup year? Don't forget, sorry, I just mentioned that in the World Cup year, the appetite for football in America over the next 12 months is going to be, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs over there because, the World Cup's coming and there's going to be all in the news all day long. So it's a great place for Sonny to get the attention that he's so used to in European football, to receive it in an area that's getting this growing love of soccer. And so, it's a fascinating story, and I hope that there's some truth to it from TBR, Graham Bailey, and the Spurs guy, Jamie Brown. We shall see, guys. We shall see. But for me, it's a nice little tick in terms of an exciting development. I still want to see Solomon be exited and go back to Leeds. I still love to see Richarlison going to Turkey. Those stories are all percolating out and about in the noise and the news, views, and clues today, guys. And if we can get those three out of the door in the forward line, then hopefully that will make us be a little bit less hesitant with paying whatever it is that we need to pay to get the Mohamed Kudus deal done. And if we can get that done, it's a tantalizingly talented option to throw into our mix. We probably still need one more. And then maybe if you do sell Richarlison, then you can go and get a striker as well to throw in the mix. And then the only real other areas of the pitch we've got to worry about is a monster six, and then to figure out the ins and outs of what's happening at the back line. Possibly a left-sided centre-back, possibly a replacement for Romero, and possibly Kyle Walker-Peters, although that's the least appetising. But that's decent window stuff for me. It's not going to be enough to close the gap on the front three, but it might be enough to close the gap on the four behind it, and we can hopefully look for a Champions League run, potentially outside chance for a Champions League run and some cup successes next season. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you this evening for a live stream, unless something else comes out in the meantime, in which case there'll be another story right here. Like, subscribe, and comment, and as always, bye-bye.